to the Becoming You show, where limits get torched and possibility takes the mic. I'm Leah Rowling, human in permanent beta, neurostrategist, mom to 3 amazing humans, married to 1 legendary soul, and your no fluff permission slip to stop waiting. Every week, we rewire brain patterns, smash hand-me-down mindsets, and dive into the daring, identity-shifting conversations most people dodge. Ready to turn potential into proof? Grab your pen. Your next chapter starts now. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Becoming You show. I just have to say it. I'm just so glad that you tuned in today, because this episode, honestly, it feels like it could be one of those legacy shows, the kind that and remember where you were when you first heard it. So yeah, that kind of a show. Because let's be real, the world is changing and not just a little. I mean, it's changing in everything. It's politically more divisive than ever. Religiously, it feels kind of like a battleground. Economically, crypto, inflation, instability. Half the time, nobody really knows what's going on. And technologically, AI, robotics, quantum computing, stuff that we kind of thought, maybe anticipated would be decades away. It's here. And it feels like the ground is shaking kind of under our feet. And if you have felt it, you're not alone. But here's what hit me. As I was thinking about the show and I was thinking about conversations that I get to have day in and day out, is every revolution, if we just think about work, and that's a space that I spend a tremendous amount of time in. Every work revolution before this demanded something out of us. The Industrial Revolution demanded like that physical grit. The second demanded systems and scale. And the third demanded knowledge, code, computers, digital literacy. They all required the doing side of our humanity. Does anyone else find that very interesting? I'm kind of a nerd that way. But this one's different. This is the first revolution that doesn't need us to do. It needs us to be. I want you to think about that, and I want you to let it land without any resistance. Okay? And I know there's going to be resistance because we are doers by nature. We've attached busy as a birthright. Okay? But I want you to think about it. We have built machines to replicate what we do. This is true. And now they're doing it faster, better, cheaper, more efficiently. But they can't replicate who we are. Presence, love, compassion, creativity, born from struggles. It can't replicate the goosebumps, right? When a song takes you back to maybe your homecoming. The smell of your grandmother's perfume. That's being. This revolution doesn't need more doing. And that's a great thing. Because I believe this is the revolution that is inviting us back into ourself. It's calling for being, right? And that is the work of consciousness, of identity, of becoming. So today, we're going to walk through the revolutions that got us here, who thrived in them, who didn't, and why this one is demanding something radically different.
Because history shows us those who adapt thrive. But this time, adapting isn't about tools for effort, it's more about exploration of ourself. So take a deep breath. This is the next human era. And the question is, will you win in it? Will you win in it? So if we roll back history, it doesn't repeat, it rhymes. And if you know the rhyme, you can better predict and you have a higher possibility, a higher chance to win because there is an anticipation about the future that can be gleaned from reflecting on the past. So we've got the first revolution, which I kind of teased out at the very beginning. We got steam engines and factories and soot and people grinding it out with incredibly long hours. The people that thrived in that revolution were the ones that leaned into doing, right? They learned the machines, they adapted, they worked, like physical grit, they worked hard. And those who didn't were the artisans, right? The craftsmen who kind of clung in to the old ways, hoping that things wouldn't change. But they did, as they do. Then we have the second revolution, right? We got electricity, we got assembly lines, we've got mass production. The winners there, those were the ones that could systematize, that could operationalize, that could build big, and that could move with speed and sustainability and scale, right? And the ones that didn't win, triumph in that revolution of work were the ones that just couldn't keep pace, probably because they were resistant to change. There's the theme. The third, digital, computers, networks, automation, right? Those that thrived were the ones that got really fluent in the new doing by way of coding, leaning into tech, using um, language, computer language, as a conduit for change. And those who didn't thought this was kind of a fad. Not so much, right? So I hope you see this, right? Each time the winners were the adapters to change. They were the embracers of change. They were the maybe even the pioneers of change. And the ones that weren't, weren't. And so in all of those revolutions before us, you notice that there was a requirement of us to do something new skills, new trades, new systems, new technologies. But we're here, okay? This fourth revolution, AI, robotics, biotech, hyperconnectivity, quantum coding, quantum language, okay? And this one isn't about what you can do, as I mentioned. Machines already do it faster. It's about who you can be. So this revolution isn't about external adaptation. It's not. It's not about, oh, just learn a new tool or pick up a new trade or any of that. It's about internal adaptation. It's about inner work. And when I say that, I know sometimes when I say that's the work, or this is why we have to do the work. People are like, what are you talking about? What do you mean, the work? I'm not talking about the work like we did in all of the revolutions before us. I'm talking about the work of coming home to ourselves. I mean, things like how we think inside, catching our thoughts, thinking about what we think about, really deciding on purpose whether or not those are our thoughts or we just borrowed those thoughts. Because most of them are borrowed, as I've said many times, inherited, recycled, not ours. Hello, right? Emotional regulation, inside doing. Really getting good at understanding our feelings, how to process them through without blaming them on everybody, how to actually use the intelligence of our emotions to make decisions, to create solutions, to to step into possibility, to open new doors. But most of us, because we haven't learned tools on how to feel, guess what happens? We buffer them away. Guess by doing what? Overdoing, more doing. This work isn't asking you to do more outside. It's asking you to do more inside. Relational intelligence, right? Showing up clean, showing up holding space without an agenda, clean in conversation instead of being reactive or just avoiding. I was having a conversation with a lady yesterday, and she was like, well, at least I avoid and I don't react, as if there's a difference. Because if you tend to say, well, at least I don't react and I avoid a conversation, I want you to be honest with yourself. How long do you actually avoid? Because I like to think of emotions like a beach ball. And excuse me, you can push down, push down, push down, push down like a beach ball, all the emotions. You can pretend that you're okay and that you're fine and everything's okay and lie about your existence, right? And you push and you push and you push, and it only takes one little thing for your hand to slip off the ball and the ball explodes. So while you might be avoiding now, I'm guessing avoidance is not sustainable. And I'm guessing what you find yourself doing is you avoid, and avoid until you no longer can't, and then you react. Relational intelligence is about showing up wickedly clean in those conversations. So you don't have to meet that conversation with reactivity or avoidance. You meet it with consciousness. That's an inside tool. That's inside work. This revolution requires that. There's energy management, treating your nervous system like the gold that it is. Right? So many people talk about time management as the thing. And I want to offer to you time management is incredibly important. But time is time. Everybody has the same amount of it, no matter where you're at in the world. It's a human construct. But energy, that's yours. That's personal. And yet, I don't see a lot of people really prioritizing managing their energy. Not near as much as they're managing their time or their money or their expenses or their ops or their balance sheet. And then there's culture, right? Intentionally shaping how you show up in the world, how you show up in your family, how the culture of your family is, and how your team is. This is all inside work. And I believe that's the real work that is going to set us up for this next revolution. And if we're honest, no one has taught us these things in school. And yet, it's the only thing that will determine whether or not we thrive in this era or we get swallowed by it. So when I think about that, I get excited because I've spent the last 3 decades on inside work. But I think the biggest risk right now, if people were to ask me, and they do from time to time, I don't think it's AI taking over. Okay? It's not robots marching down the street. Okay? What I believe it is for us to be able to thrive in this next revolution of work is obviously not having those tools that I just talked about. But the reason why we don't have those tools, perhaps, is because of distraction. Distraction, I believe, is our biggest risk right now. I don't believe it's AI. I believe it's distraction because we can literally distract ourselves out of our own lives, out of our own potential, out of our relationships, out of our finances, out of meaning, out of growth. Every ding, every ping, every scroll, it steals a piece of you. And guess what? Engineers are paid billions of dollars to make sure it does. We tell ourselves that we're being efficient while our attention is sliced into 1,000 pieces. And meanwhile, life is just slipping. Our identity is just slipping. And we scroll and we scroll and we scroll and we spend a tremendous amount of time and effort being interested in other people's creativity, interested in what other people are doing that is innovative and cool. But how much time are we spending in our life being creative, being innovative, being cool? And if we don't wake up to that distraction, the cost won't just be wasted time, it'll be wasted selves. And I struggle with that because I believe in a humanity that is infinite in their possibility, is infinite in their potential. And I believe distraction is the number one reason that we don't step into it. And so, like every revolution before, there will be winners and there will be losers. And I believe the ones who win are the ones who expand capacity by way of the tools that I offered up: how to think, how to feel, how to have relational intelligence, how to manage our energy, how to create a culture that is legacy driven. I believe the ones who won't make it are the ones that scroll their lives away, that are resistant to stepping into and learning more about their own potential because they're way more interested in everybody else's. I believe it's the ones who manage inability versus coach to capacity. I talked a lot about that in my podcast last week. The ones who outsource their humanity to machines. It's that simple. And it's that hard. And people have asked me literally over the last couple of months, which is kind of what brought this um, podcast to a head, is they said, Leah, what if AI becomes conscious? What if AI becomes conscious? Now, here's the thing. Even if that day comes, and it might, I'm not here to say that it won't or it will, but if it does, being human still wins. Because being conscious isn't just about information, it's about lived experience. It's the heartbeat when you hold your child. It's the goosebumps, like I mentioned, when a song takes you back. I still hear songs on the radio that take me right back to homecoming, right back to the gym and the balloons and the color and my dress and my girlfriends. It's the smell of Chanel that my grandma wore. It's the warmth of someone's hand on your shoulder. Machines, they can't simulate empathy that way, right? They don't feel heartbreak. They can process words, but they don't know the lump in your throat when you whisper, I'm sorry. They can predict patterns for sure, but they can't fall in love. They can't feel that sense of aliveness. Our humanity is the differentiator. It is. That's why this revolution isn't about out coding AI. It's about out consciousing it. And that is why we are bringing Innerboard to the world, right? I don't talk a lot about what I've been doing in the background on these podcasts, but I want to bring it forward because I think it's important. Because if this revolution requires being instead of doing, we need tools for that. Tools that help us reclaim our being. So let me just ask you a few questions and just notice where you see yourself. Not in judgment, not not in shame, but where you see yourself by way of these questions, okay? So, question number 1, have you lost yourself in the roles that you play? I know I have. At work, at home, in relationships. Do you know who you are outside of mom? Do you know who you are outside of dad? Do you know who you are outside of your profession? Do you say you're fine, but deep down, you know you're not really fine? Do you keep quiet to avoid conflict so as to not ruffle feathers? That's inner board self. Inner board self in the suite of offerings is the one that is going to help you journey with you to allow you, invite you to you. It allows you to reclaim your identity that's just been lost. It helps you heal the past so that you can move forward. And it allows you to summon the best of who you are because you can't do that if you don't know who you are, right? Or maybe it's your family. Do you feel like in your family, maybe accountability has slipped, maybe communication is shallow, maybe the phones get more attention than one another? Are you concerned that we might have people in our families that don't know how to worry, that feel like they have to do it alone? That's inner word family. That's where we create culture in our homes by design, not by default. I think more than all of our suites, being an effective leader in that one is the hardest because it matters the most. What about work? Maybe you're an executive listening to my voice. Maybe you're in HR, or maybe you're just the leader that sees this new revolution and knows that it requires something different. You know that your people do not need more managing. You know that your people did not wake up today and say, gee, I hope somebody tells me and bosses me around today. I hope somebody manages me today. No, they crave coaching. They crave somebody that's going to see a possibility in them that they don't see and be able to deliver that accountability with love and consciousness and compassion. That's inner board work. So much of work is systematized and operationalized, but culture isn't. So really building accountability, helping your teams win. And the next generation, I don't know about you, but I know distraction is stealing a lot of people's future, but I think it's stealing theirs more than anyone's, right? They're handed very safe and small options instead of bold ones. So inner board young adult, it's all about resilience. It's all about courage. It's all about the ability to create possibilities bigger than what the world is offering them because they're going to find it within themselves. They're not going to find it in a TikTok. They're not going to find it in a YouTube. They're going to find it by reconnecting to their own dreams and their own desires, not the ones that YouTube or chat or TikTok is offering them, and certainly not the limited ones that we tend to give them to mitigate our discomfort in uncertainty for them. Ouch. And maybe you're a coach or a leader of leaders. If you feel called to change the world, human to human, but you need more depth in your toolbox, that's Innerboard Certify. Not just your transformation, which you will get, but the ability to multiply it into others. That is Innerboard. That is the suite of Innerboard. It's not just a program, it's the operating system for the next human era. It's our defense against distraction and drift. It's our offense for creativity, resilience, and conscious leadership. And I believe it's the work that the world has been waiting for. So here's where we land, right? The world is changing. That's not the question. The only question is, will you? Will you? I don't want you just to listen to this podcast. I want you to step into it with me. There is a link in the show notes that you can sign up for the Innerboard waitlist. So you will be the first to get updates on the launching of all of these offerings within the suites. I would love it for you to be part of this revolution with us, in this movement with us. If you've been listening to me for a really long time, you probably understand the very importance of becoming overdoing, being over busy, and you probably feel it deep down that is the call for this next revolution of not just work, but living and loving. And so I'll hope you get on the wait list to join us there. We'll have a community, we'll have a membership, we'll have so many awesome things in there. I'm so excited to bring this into the world. And my hope is that I will actually get to meet you if I haven't already. I'll actually get to see you at our events, our retreats, or on our Zoom calls that we're going to have every month that are coaching specific and social specific. So I hope you'll join me there. Until next week, have a beautiful one, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye. If this episode cracked something open, good. Let it. And then head to leahrollingcoaching.com and grab the tools to rewire the story and reclaim your future. It is yours. And share this with someone who's still waiting to be chosen, still waiting for permission, and remind them they don't need a breakthrough, that they are the breakthrough. Until next time, my beautiful friends, invest in you and keep becoming.